I say let's get started. First of all, you guys on Zoom, I already got a message from Daniel. Teresa sent me something on email to let me know that you're here participating through Zoom. With that being said, first order of business today. Last time I'll see you before we do the presentations, the narrated PowerPoints. And so any questions on that? You guys good with that? I already have a couple of them already turned in. So I want to let you know about this. And that is on the prompt, on the assignments, it says narrated PowerPoint presentation. I changed the directions for loading and sending your PowerPoints, which will, after you do the narration, will be an MP4. But bottom line is this. We tried with some folks trying to get it uploaded through Canvas. For some reason, Canvas will not accept those submissions. And the best that we can surmise is that the files are too big. Canvas doesn't want to accept large files because once you narrate it and turn it into an MP4, even though it's only 7 to 10 minutes, it's still a big file. So we do know that you can send that via email, and email will allow that. That's how I got the ones I have so far, was through email. On that prompt, I have a hot link. It's my email address. Just upload it, send it to me. Now, I want 3 things from you. Obviously, the narrated PowerPoint presentation. The second thing is the transcripts, the verbatim account of what was said on the PowerPoint. And I have a couple of reasons for that, not the least of which is if I have any comments or suggestions or corrections or congratulations for doing such a good job, I can't really put that on your narrated PowerPoint. But if you give me a Word document or a PDF, I can print it out, I can mark it up, I can copy it and send it back to you. That's how I'll have to do this. Typically, I would have the comment section on Canvas, but because of this technological problem we have, that's going to be the best solution. And so finally, only one person needs to submit per group. Now, I know a couple of people were requesting that they do it alone. No group presentation. It kind of kills one of my main objectives, and that is that you have some evidence and you've shown that you can work cooperatively with others, which is a huge thing, and especially if you're seeking employment somewhere. But at any rate, because of the attendance issues here, because of some of the ad drops that we've had, I just kind of let that go. But bottom line is that I only need 1 submission per presentation. So if you are a group of 1, it's your job to send it. If you're one of 2, decide who sends it. I don't need 2 copies of the same thing. And the third part of your submission with the file, with presentation, with the transcripts, finally, a summary of who did what, how you participated in putting this together. That's for my edification, and it's for, if you are a group of one, I know automatically that you're responsible for everything in this, but I do want to have some documentation that you guys actually did work together. How you divide the labor, how you assign the task between yourselves, that's on you. But I do want to know that you guys were working cooperatively. And if there is a problem with one of the issues, like somebody was doing the research and the dates are all wrong, then I can kind of know who I should be talking or commenting to. So with that, raised a lot of issues. How about you guys? It's due when you come back. That's what we're doing in class the week after Thanksgiving. We're looking at these. You guys will be the teachers for a brief time. So you guys good? I see some head shaking. I'll take that as a yes. Okay, secondly, when we were here on Tuesday, I stopped here. It was like about 5 after, and this, as you can see, is a video that lasts 8 minutes and 14 seconds. It is a video on the religious tradition of India. And I had talked about that briefly. It's kind of critical to understanding the art of India. And likewise with Christianity, with Islam, with almost any culture we look at, much of their art is inspired by their religion and or belief systems. Much of it is inspired by the kings, pharaohs, and so on as well. But in India, it's really much of it religious based and influenced. And there are 3 major religions: Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. And we looked at Buddhism already. We looked at the stupas and things. What happens in India is that Hinduism actually spreads across South Asia, and a lot of those places where where Hinduism spread, centuries later, they convert to Buddhism. And so we see a lot of things that start off originally as Hindu temples, originally started out as Buddhist temples, turn into, I'm getting this all goofed up. I guess I better just show you the film. We'll make sense of it.
Searching for a truth and vision beyond the immediate, you too need to find the power that animates all living things and their surroundings. Man invented religion. Religion gave meaning to his existence. India gave birth to 3 of the world's greatest religions, which share many of each other's doctrines. They are Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Hinduism is considered to be a civilization as well as a confluence of religions. It has no single founder, though it is believed to have emerged from the Vedas. It does not have a central authority hierarchy, or organization. Hinduism is not a religion that is preached, but a way of life, and it draws from other religions and philosophies, enriching itself in the process. Buddhism is based on the teachings of Gautama Buddha, who attained nirvana after leaving the luxurious life of a prince and going out in search of a higher truth. Jainism, as is practiced today, was founded by Mahavira, who was the last of the 24 Tirthankars. Interestingly, the three religions share a common cultural and geographical origin. While Hinduism was already established as a religion and a way of life in the subcontinent and even beyond, Jainism remained mostly confined within the borders of India. Buddhism traveled far and wide. Many early Buddhists had been Brahmins educated in the Upanishads. The Buddha, however, rejected the role of these scriptures in attaining salvation. He redefined existing Indian concepts, molding them to explain his middle path. He proclaimed that to attain salvation, one did not have to accept God or the scriptures. These novel ideas were later incorporated into Indian religious thinking as well. The movement of Buddhism through Asia was successful, mainly because of its spirit of accommodation and its general fluidity. Reaching each new culture, Buddhism modified itself to suit the local manners and customs. This was done without compromising its core concerns of wisdom and compassion. Thus developed its own forms of Buddhism, its own organizational structure and spiritual leader. Interestingly, it was not zealots or hardened missionaries who worked to spread Buddhism, but monks and scholars, savants from different countries. A bigger boost came in the middle of the 3rd century BC, when Emperor Ashoka established its cause. Rather than forcing his subjects to adopt Buddhism, he spread awareness by posting edicts engraved on iron pillars and rock throughout his realm. These edicts were ethical and inspirational. He sent missionaries throughout the land and beyond its shores. Ashoka was one of the most influential advocates of the Buddhist faith. Where Jainism was concerned, it was already an established religion in several Indian provinces, even before Mahavira or the Buddha began their teaching. Places like Magadha, Kaushala, Kapilavastu, Vaishali, Varanasi, Simhabhumi, Kaushambi, and Avanti were prominent Jain centers. Jainism also reached southern India where it flourished. Some of Sankara, along with their disciples, migrated from the south and propagated the faith. There was a spirit of religious tolerance in these lands. Royal patronage resulted in the commissioning of numerous Jain temples and sculptures through the ages, and support for literary and scholarly ventures. At the end of the 4th century BC, it is said that the Mauryan king Chandragupta and a band of Jain ascetics led by Sutakevalim Bhadrabahu anticipated a severe famine in their country and migrated to Shravanabelagola in today's Karnataka state. From there, they started spreading the gospel of the Tirthankaras. Later, their disciples, under the leadership of Visakhacharya, moved to the Chola and Pandya kingdoms, continuing with their mission of spreading Jainism. The migrant monks were supported in the south by householders of the faith. It was not customary for these monks to accept food from people of other faiths. One of the many interesting sidelights of these three religions is the cultural profusion they left in their wake. Art and literature flourished, starting out as expressions of religious faith and ending up as invaluable artistic legacies. The use of symbolic forms in India dates back to the Harappan seals. The 5 altars of the Vedic period had astronomical and mathematical significance. Their evolution resulted in the later Hindu temples. Even though religion is seen to have inspired a large part of ancient Indian art, it is also an expression of Indian life, its natural background, socio-religious traditions. Its style, technique, and artistic perspective have little to do with individual religious doctrines. Instead, it derives from a legacy of Indian traditions, symbols, and designs. However, when we look at our major artistic monuments, we find they were inspired by Buddhism. Though earlier structures have been referred to in texts, there is no physical evidence of their existence. In fact, there is a grey period, the upward decline, and the Maurya period. The Buddhist rock-cut monuments inspired Hindus and Jains to create their own monuments. Buddhism, which once spurned the realm of metaphysics and embraced only the palpable essence of life, had undergone transformation with the advent of Mahayana Buddhism. This is significantly brought out in Buddhist art. The Buddha's evolution in the public eye from an ideal human being to a divine being can also be traced to a study of his icons and representations. In the early Buddhist art of Bharut, Sanchi, Bodh Gaya, and Amravati, the master's presence is mainly indicated symbolically by means of an empty throne, a Bodhi tree, footprints, or a Dharma chakra. As his stature grew, so did the iconography. However, the combination of Buddhist art and indeed a conflagration of ancient Hindu art can be seen in the cave temples of Ellora and Ajinta. These rock-cut caves are a reflection of the religious expression of the three religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. There is no doubt that Ajinta and Ellora, known previously as Verul, represent not only the relationship between these three religions, but also the heights to which their respective artists and craftsmen have taken their religious concerns. These caves are an enlightening showcase of religious, artistic, and social history.
So I know there were a lot of names and a lot of terms and things that you haven't heard before. But I think that what I'd be satisfied with is if you understand that this is a long-standing culture. What we know about the culture of South Asia is it's right there, kind of a parallel with Mesopotamia and Egypt. They were civilized side by side, concurrently, if you will. And so that is one of the things that I want you to see. And the other part is that you see that it is an evolution. And the idea that Buddhism spreads far and wide, and they talked about Ashoka, Indian emperor, who actually spread the tenets of Buddhism all over South Asia, West Asia, and so on. Well, with that, he was the guy who actually tried to recover the Buddha's ashes and put them in the great stupa at Sanchi. So we've seen his name before, and he's depicted on one of the tornas, the gateways at the great temple, the great stupa at Sanchi. So that being said, the idea of a religion that is fluid, no central authority. There's no pope. There's no king or any other figure that actually governs the practice of the religion. That's kind of an interesting idea. It's not unique to India. And the idea that that Hinduism absorbs the other religions, that's not unique to India as well. We have parallels, although this is something of a strained comparison. But Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they all have the same roots. They go back to Abraham. They are the Abrahamic religions. And so Christianity absorbed much of Judaism. Take my word for it. Look at the Old Testament. It's all about the Jewish tradition. Islam incorporates tenets of Christianity. People like Jesus Christ himself is considered to be a major and important prophet. His mother Mary, considered by Muhammad himself to be a fine example of a holy woman. Am I right about that? Okay, well, good. And so anyway, none of these things are unique, and in fact, they're actually kind of similar. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of the Hindu iconography. And this figure here, this statue, is Shiva, one of the major Hindu gods. And how do we know that's Shiva? Well, let me show you this. There he is again. Here are the parts of the iconography. When we talk about Mary in Christian art, we talk about different things in the iconography that would let you know that this is the mother of Christ. That's who this is. First of all, a halo. And she's dressed with her head covering, and she's dressed in blue. Typically, she does have the baby Jesus in her arms or on her lap. We also see her enthroned, and so on. And we see other representations that come right out of the Gospels about how she was there when Christ was crucified. So we know. And then that depiction of Mary actually evolved over time as well. By the time we're in the Gothic era, we see the fleur-de-lis, the lily flower, connected to the Virgin Mary. And so anyway, these are the kind of the major portions of the iconography. And first of all is that he has his trident, which is that thing right there. It's a three-tip spear. It's actually a same kind of instrument or weapon or tool that you see in the Greek god Neptune. Poseidon. Neptune is the Roman version. But bottom line, this is part of it. We got here. We typically have the third eye up here, which is, and I know you guys are going to have trouble reading this, but it's on the PowerPoint. The third eye signifies the destruction of the world of Maya. It is an eye of wisdom, which provides us the faculty to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. And so in Hinduism, one of the practices is, and you see Hindus on holy festival days, do a red dot right there on their forehead. Well, this is where that comes from. And that in its own way is not particularly only in the Hindu tradition. If you're a Catholic and you know about Ash Wednesday, you get the sign of the cross in ashes put on your forehead. So he's got rosary beads for prayer. He's got this, it's called a tiger skin. And that's what this is. Now, on this depiction, where did I have him? There he is. That's actually a leopard skin. But, you know, he will typically have a snake around his neck. And he will have, well, we've seen this or something similar to this, a blessing, a sign of blessing. And so Shiva, though, is in a lot of ways, and it was alluded to in this, the destruction of the world of Maya. We go into that too much, but Shiva in the pantheon of Hindu gods is a destroyer god. Notably, did I ask you guys about Robert Oppenheimer yet? I didn't think so. You might know who he is. Oh, major points here I can make. New things to learn. Robert Oppenheimer is the guy who is considered to be the father of the atomic bomb. He was the guy that was put in charge of the Manhattan Project in the early 1940s to build the atomic bomb, nuclear weapons. And it was sponsored by the US government. They had different places like Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Hanford, Washington. But the big central complex where they did their work was in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And Robert Oppenheimer was a physicist who was in charge of this entire operation. And as a noted and distinguished physicist, he knew who to recruit to get the job done. And in 1945, they were successful. They made the atomic bomb, they dropped them on Japan less than a month later. But Robert Oppenheimer was asked by a reporter long afterwards, somewhat afterwards, well, how did you feel about creating what they called at the time the atom bomb? And he quoted from the Hindu text. He said, this, I feel like, this is paraphrased, by the way. You can find this on YouTube too. He said, I feel like Shiva. I am Shiva. I am the destroyer of worlds. I thought that was like, whoa. Bottom line, he was an intelligent guy. He was well read. And in these holy texts, whether they're Hindu, Islamic, Judaic, Christian, all of these places you can find truth. And so anyway, this is Shiva, and I had this picture here. This is, they call him Lord Shiva. And this is his wife, Lady Shiva. And you see they have the third eye. And you see this guy, whoa, there's a baby. He's either got a nasal issue or he's got an elephant's head. I think he's part human, part animal. Where have we seen this before? We've seen this since antiquity, all over the place. The Anubis from Egypt, the Minotaur from Minoan culture, and so on. Centaur from Greek culture. And so that is Ganesha. That's who is on Lady Shiva's lap. He is the son of Lord and Lady Shiva, and he himself is a god. And it has its own set of iconography as well. And it's the elephant, large ears, listen more. This one's actually kind of easy to understand. an axe. He carries an axe in his hand. Let's see that here. It's hard to tell. Small mouth, talk less. Listen more, talk less. He's got his hand up. Blessings, as we know. A large stomach, peacefully digest all the good and bad in life. And I was talking about that idea in Indian, Hindu, and Buddhist art, that the ideal is not like what we see in Greece and Rome with all of the muscles and everything. The ideal is actually have a little bit of weight. Kind of denotes a few things. One of them, prosperity, and that you have enough to eat, and that that you are, you know, that's a measure of being a successful person. You're not starving there. Anyway, big head, think big. Small eyes, concentrate. It has rope in his hand, typically, to pull you nearer to the highest goal. And so this is kind of interesting. A lot of times you'll see this mouse. The mouse is desire. Under control can cause, unless under control can cause havoc, you ride desire and keep it under control and don't allow it to take you for a ride. So the mouse actually represents temptation. And temptation is small, but it can get the best of you. And so, Lord Shiva images, there it is. And I just did this because you'll see all of these things. Let me make sure I got the right shared. And so here they are. This is kind of an interesting website. It has all of Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh, Lord Vishnu. Vishnu, by the way, the highest of the Hindu gods. But yeah, and they do different things, they adapt. But you know, this is Shiva. It's got the trident, got the tiger skin, got the third eye. And so here it says it's a collection of Lord Shiva images, categorized by various groups. And we're talking about India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and so on. Anyway. There we go. And so there he is again. There's Shiva. And Vishnu, on the other hand, it's got a crown, supreme power, a weapon of destruction of evil, and that's his hand. He's got that kind of power. Symbol of lordship. Here's something that's really very common in Vishnu, is that you'll see Vishnu on the water. And that represents the ocean of consciousness. And he'll have a lotus flower, typically perfection, compassion, and beauty. And I say all of that partly because some of these same icons, some of these same symbols make their way not just in Hinduism, but they end up getting associated with the Buddha too. And you'll see the Buddha with the lotus flower often. Compassion and appreciation for beauty. Shiva, Buddha. And so anyway, and one of the things that you'll see a lot of are these depictions of Shiva with many limbs, a lot of limbs. See, and this is Shiva because there's the snake that was wrapped around his neck. The trident should be here somewhere. At any rate, Shiva, rock cut sandstone, multiple arms. That is iconography that depicts that Shiva can do many things and can play many roles simultaneously. It doesn't really mean that this Lord Octopus or anything like that. It's basically symbolic, and hopefully you'll understand that. And there are all other kinds of symbolism here too, with what's going on outside the ring here, and so on and so on. But here we go. Interior of Chaitya Hall. Buddhist rock cut. We saw that in the film. They were talking about rock cut architecture and the fact that there was no other architecture before Buddhism. We don't find that. They didn't make big buildings. They didn't do monuments until Buddhism arrived. But you can see in here, this is a stupa. It's inside the rock cut temple. And it has the chakras on top, denotes different levels of consciousness, and it has a place around the back so that you can circumambulate, which means walk around the back. That's not unique to Buddhism or Hinduism either. Circumambulation, we saw that in the Gothic cathedrals. They have a place where you can walk behind the altar, and they have these devotional stations placed strategically along that route. We saw that in the stupas, circumambulate. Anyway, so this is all cut out of rock, you know. It's always a temptation to say, well, look at this architecture. It's kind of Gothic, but it's so different because it's cut out of rock. It's not freestanding. It's basically where these people went into the side of a mountain and carved this out, which in its own right is very impressive, to be sure. And they have the sculpture, they do, as I pointed out earlier, they do a lot of things that are quite reminiscent of Mesopotamian culture and other cultures where they use low relief sculpture to tell stories. And they use the frieze or the register, you know, put the events on a timeline. There's another rock cut cathedral. And see, this is the second half of the 5th century. This is a common era. And by now, this is an interesting point of Buddhism too, is that originally he was not depicted. It was there symbolically, like footprints or an empty seat or something like that, or just a hand with a blessing. But we see this, there's Buddha himself, there's the chakras up here. This part of the architecture of the stupas does develop into pagodas, this idea of levels of consciousness piled one on top the other. And again, there's Vishnu with the boar's head. Again, they take all different forms. They have all different kinds of parts of the iconography, but again, animal, human hybrid. And again, here's our friezes, our low relief, telling the story right there along the wall. There's a Shiva. Again, you see flower petals here. And that is typically what you see a lot of is people bring flowers, burn incense. Sometimes they bring gifts to the statues. And so more rock cut Rathras, these are from the 7th century. And again, some of these start off as Hindu turned Buddhist, some are Buddhist from their inception. But at any rate, again, these low relief friezes, there's a there's a bullhead Shiva, I think, but Durga slaying the buffalo demon. The list of Hindu gods is long. And so I just recognize that there is, you could spend an entire undergraduate, graduate education. And so the elephants appear sometimes as Ganesha, sometimes as just the fact that they were the pack animals. And they were the military animals as well. And so when soldiers came in riding, they didn't come on horseback like you would find in Greece, Rome, so on, cavalry. No, it was typically elephants. And some other rock cut temple. Want to kind of finish this up. Here's that same kind of depiction of Shiva as Natar Aja, say, easy for you to say. Again, many arms, and typically you'll find that snake there somewhere. And so we have temples here. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes they start off as the spread of Hinduism and then convert to Buddhism. The faiths are so alike, and it's not unlike what we see in the Western world. We saw Hagia Sophia built as a Christian cathedral and is now, and has been for 1500 years, a mosque. The great mosque cathedral at Cordoba changed religions. And so anyway, and so this is in Java. This is a Buddha localized. These are hollow stupas designed after the original, and Bodhisattva. And a Bodhisattva is a figure that appears a lot too. Bodhisattva is a teacher. Bodhi comes from the Bodhi tree, which is a tree of knowledge. Whoa, again, the tree of knowledge. Have we seen that like in the Bible or something? So yeah, this idea, Bodhi tree knowledge. Bodhisattva is someone who actually had reached enlightenment, and rather than die and spend eternity in nirvana, chose to stay here on earth and lead others to enlightenment and eventually nirvana. And so, and other different kinds of, there's Vishnu lying on the cosmic ocean, as I said earlier, the ocean of consciousness, that's a major theme in Vishnu. Angkor Wat, Cambodia, major Buddhist temple enclave. It's one of the World Heritage Sites. It's magnificent. And I had this video that I wanted to show you because it actually is kind of cool. It talks about Angkor Wat, and they do some drone photography and stuff. It's really pretty cool. I tried to get this and it said video no longer available. And so what I have to say, just kind of as a conclusion, this is Angkor, Cambodia. This is all part of the complex, but Angkor Wat, one of the World Heritage Sites, and as I was saying, most everything we see in terms of painting, sculpture, and architecture is inspired by religion. But what happens like in Angkor Wat, as well as other places, is that the belief system kind of exists and it becomes part of the culture on the everyday level, but every once in a while, you'll get an emperor or a king that will decide that their country, their people should devote all of these resources into building these great buildings. And that's really not any different than what was going on in the Gothic era. People that they just decided out of the blue that we're going to step out of the Dark Ages and we're going to build these magnificent cathedrals when the rest of everything was left more or less unchanged. And so I just have one more thing I want to show you. I'm going to find my screen share button there. Slideshow from beginning. I'm going to check this. Yeah. So, chapter 16, China and Korea. Probably one of the most remarkable discoveries of the 20th century is Emperor Qin's terracotta army. And I'll show you the map here. And this is basically the area we're talking about, Korea and China. And these are the terracotta figures, the terracotta army as they're referred to. And I put the star by this one. What happened? Wait, I know what I can do. I'll show you this. This is a video of how they were discovered, and it's pretty short. Yeah, 2 minutes and 36 seconds. And before I go, I got to make sure that the folks at home, yeah, you can see this. Good.
Hello and welcome to History Pod. On the 29th of March 1974, the Terracotta Army was discovered in Shanxi Province in China. A group of farmers discovered the site of the ancient sculptures while digging a well near the city of Xi'an. On the fifth day of excavation, team member Yang Jifan uncovered pieces of a life-size terracotta warrior beneath a layer of hard red earth, and soon found other fragments of clay walls alongside artifacts that included bronze arrowheads. Realizing that they had stumbled upon a potentially important cultural site, the farmers notified the local authorities, who in turn called for a team of archaeologists to investigate. One of the archaeologists, Zhao Kangmin, later revealed how we were so excited we rode on our bicycles so fast it felt as if we were flying. After retrieving a number of fragments from the site, he then spent time at the local museum, piecing together two 1.78-meter terracotta statues. It confirmed his suspicions that the site dated back to the reign of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, who reigned in the 3rd century BCE. The fight was initially kept secret for fear of the statues being destroyed by Red Guards caught up in the Cultural Revolution that had already destroyed other archaeological sites. However, it was later exposed by a journalist in a story that attracted the attention of officials in Beijing, who initiated a full-scale excavation. Thousands of sculptures have so far been uncovered, buried in an elaborate funerary complex, estimated to cover more than 22 square miles. The terracotta army was found in battle formation in a series of deep pits, guarding the nearby tomb mound of the emperor that remains tantalizing unexcavated.
I need to put this up here because it's blocking. There we go. So I have a lot to say about this. Like, first of all, they talked about how they had to keep it secret. He talked about the Red Guard. And that is a bit of Chinese history that is noteworthy. And that is that during the years, the regime of Mao Zedong, in the 60s, they formed a group called the Red Guard. And it was mostly young people. And they were young and very rebellious and pretty militant too. And that was in their loyalty to Chairman Mao. And one of the tenets of Maoism, the philosophy of Chairman Mao, is that China needed to break with the past and move forward. They call that the Great Leap Forward. And in order to rid oneself of the past, you had to destroy all of this other stuff. And so that's why they showed that picture of burning Buddhas and stuff like that. That really happened. And so it was kind of a troubling, very tense time in China when these were discovered. But once the world found out about them, it became of interest globally. They had built something that looks like an airplane hangar. They built it over this entire site where the Terracotta Army is. But, you know, as they said, this was a compound that was 22 square miles. And they're still finding different things. They found a chamber that was basically Emperor Qin's headquarters, his military headquarters, and it has a topographical model of the surrounding landscape. And it's exact, and we can see through that model what the landscape was 1,1500 or 2,500 years ago. Bottom line is that we're still looking, we're still discovering things. And so okay. And I want to, before we go, talk to you about this. And where's my Zoom? What is this? Share screen. Good. We're on it. Or as you can see, this is quiz 5. It's on the syllabus. It's to be launched today, but it's not due until December 3rd. So this is due after the PowerPoint presentations. I thought I'd treat this week off like it's not there, you know. And so if I were launching this and we met next week, I'd be looking for it around Thursday or something. Anyway, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do this as PDF or docx and write a 2-page paper answering the following question. Choose one example from 3 different chapters of artworks, painting, sculpture, architecture, from the textbook. As it says here, only examples from the textbook. And 3 examples. So, you know, I said different chapters. What that may mean is that they are different places, but not necessarily. We got Byzantine, we got Islamic art, then we got Middle Ages, we got Gothic, we got Mesopotamian art, so on. But I want you to pick something from 3 chapters that were created to serve a similar purpose in each of their respective cultures. And so that could be the purpose or meaning, I'm talking about what the piece represents, of these works could include ideas such as ideal beauty, the tenets of religious belief, symbols of power or authority, descriptions of everyday life, the afterlife, military conquest, iconography. And it's not limited to that. I want you to find where there's a similar theme that you could take artworks from 3 different times, 3 different places, and actually compare them. 2 pages, I think that for what I'm asking you, that's probably about right. That's really just a sort of a brief description of the similarities and or the differences. Compare how you work, your chosen theme is similar and different among your 3 examples. So I can throw out a bunch of them. You know, we were just talking about, I was telling you about some of the similarities in Hindu art, iconography, architecture, and I didn't even hit, I just scratched the surface on that one. But, you know, we talk about the blessing. That's an icon. That's something that you can find in Christianity. You can find it in, you can find it all over the place. Iconography itself as a system of explaining who these people are and what they do. Maybe the idea of a halo or something behind the head like that. And I want to say, I didn't want to exclude Islamic art. It doesn't have to be about iconography or representation. For instance, how about similarities of the minaret connecting the earth to the heavens? Well, we see that a lot. We saw that in the Gothic cathedrals connecting the earth to the heavens. We see that in a lot of other cultures too. even in India, you'll see that these buildings go higher and higher, connecting heaven and earth. And so there are a lot of ideas. And I want you to kind of take a more broad view. As you can see, this is more of a comprehensive question, but we're nearing the end of this class, and I want you to do something that would allow you to reflect on humanity, what we have learned so far. We still have a few more cultures to look at. We just began China, to be sure. But hopefully we'll get to take a look at Japanese art, art of the Americas, and art of Africa too. If we, hopefully, we run out of time. But we'll see as much as we can. So any questions about quiz 5? Any questions about how much longer we can sit in this hot room? Oh, about 30 seconds. Have a great thanks weekend, you guys. Be safe. Be prosperous. Be smart. See you, Greg Grella. Micah, what's on?
So you mind if I take this off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mind if I,
I know it's hard to talk with these things. I've been finding that.
yeah,
You too, Joe.
so I'm making the audio video for our presentation. How are we supposed to put that on slides?
Yeah, actually, if you look at that prompt, I have a PowerPoint presentation that shows you how to narrate your slides. You put the slides together, and then there's a little button on PowerPoint. Let's see if I can get this here. And so you start doing the slideshow. Where are we at? Home. New slide. Okay. And then let's see, where are we at? Animation, slideshow. Oh, there it is. See this? Record slideshow. You hit this and start talking. Your microphone will pick it up. And it has a setup button here. But here's the thing. You can rehearse this if you like and figure out how much time you want to spend on this. It has some other tips, but basically record slideshow says your recording device is not set up. So anyway, this is not my computer, but bottom line, you would do this. Record 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Ba 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 ba. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks.
You bet.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Response, we have a little, yeah, he hasn't been here like the last weeks.
Who's your partner?
It was Joshua Kyle.
Okay. Well, if you want to go ahead and start doing it, I gotta shake that tree anyway.